Welcome everybody to another cast from StarCastTV. It's your boy on the mic, Nyoken, and today I'm going to be doing a game between Rain and Rush in anticipation of the upcoming ASL. I'm excited to be casting a few games. So in the top right we do have Mr. Rush, and in the top left we do have none other than Rain himself. And the map is Fighting Spirit. You know, a map that we all know Terran players love. So I find that this is probably going to be pretty tough for Rush, but at the same time, we know that Rain hasn't been that active, or at least wasn't that active in months prior to this game. But regardless, this should still be a good game because Rain, whenever he ends up coming back to the scene, always pretty dominant. And for now, we do have a pylon in the main, no shenanigans going on. Meanwhile, Depot right next to the command center, getting that little bit extra boost of the SCV popping out right next to the command center. You can also see Rush boosting that SCV at the top. He's very diligent about boosting that SCV every single time I watch him play. And of course, standard gateway follow-up, so we're not going to have Mr. 12 Nexus this time around. Now, Rush, on the other hand, he does go for gasless quite often, but this time he is actually going for an 11 gas, and that is a 132 gas. For a second, I thought he wasn't going to cancel it and still have the money for that fast of a gas, and I was going to have to super analyze this boosting of SCVs because I have never seen a gas faster than 136 when you go for the 12 gas. Now, meanwhile, back on Rain side of the map, of course, the typical assimilator, cybernetics, no zealot just yet. May end up building the zealot after this accumulation of minerals, but nope, he's gonna skip it for now. Another pylon coming down, so everything very normal from him. You know, zealot pressure play has kind of fallen off, I've noticed, in the past few weeks or so. We're seeing a lot more just straight goon play. Now, meanwhile, we've got the factory, of course, pulling off of gas. Not going to be a 2-fact. This is not a Nartosis replay, so we don't really have to worry about that. Meanwhile, this scout is actually kind of late. It's like a 14 scout. Luckily for him, he's going to find him in the first position. And versus someone like Rain, he does play pretty standard, but every now and then he does mix it up. Coming in here, and he's just going to get a peek and see, you know, nothing really unusual going on. He's of course looking for that third pylon if he can find it. We know that there is no third pylon right now, and it's not hidden unless a probe was out on the map, but I didn't see it get sent out, and you can see just now he's going to go scout with his first goon, and this probe is setting up like he's going to take a Nexus. The SCV didn't see it, so he may be suspicious that something's missing, but now that he's coming back down to the Nat, sure, once he sees this Nexus, he'll realize everything's just fine. Meanwhile, he has gone for the 3 Marine expand instead of the 2 in the bunker. This kind of just gives you a little extra boost to put down that CC a little bit quicker, but it does mean you have to be careful. You can see he is... Oh, actually, he goes for a Vulture first. So, Vulture very strong versus the Goons, versus their initial shields, but after that, pretty weak. So getting a good first shot on the Goon to eliminate a lot of the shields is really nicely done from him. Meanwhile, add-on coming in. This could be for mines. Doesn't have to be, but often you do see mines as a follow-up. Try and catch the Goon. And the Vulture is actually going to intercept this probe, so that's a nice pick-off. But it did come in at a weird timing. So Rush may be thinking like, did you potentially hide something? Like, didn't you already find my base? Maybe you are actually hiding something, or maybe you're intending to proxy something over here. We of course know that's not the case because Rain has gone for the standard 410-ish robo. And meanwhile, okay, I thought that was a probe for a second. I thought we were going to see another Nexus off of just 2 goons. Meanwhile, after the tank, going into more Vultures, getting the mines as expected. You know, Rush is someone that often goes for Starport, so we could see a Starport, but not the case. This is the 445 Armory, and I've seen a lot of Rush games. This is his, I want to say his go-to Armory timing. It's really quick, though. And this will allow you to pretty much get like a 11:30, 11:40, 2-1 timing. I don't know if that's really the time you want to move out as Terran though. You know, you're not maxed, you're not really at critical mass of anything. So generally when I see this, I'm thinking this could be for a 3-2 style, which is extremely strong on Fighting Spirit. Even if you take this late, you're just camping the whole game, building up your tank count, and then push with 3-2. That could be what he's going for as opposed to a 2-1 timing or even a +1 weapon timing. Meanwhile, this Vulture, he's gotten a decent amount of mine coverage. A couple in the center of the map, a couple blocking expansions. That's really what you want to do and get a little vision. And behind this, Rain has a feeling that Rush is going to get aggressive. So he's gone into 3-gate Observer. But we know that Rush is kind of playing passive this game or this time around, so this is not a huge commitment, but if he ends up building something like 10 goons, that could all of a sudden turn into a big commitment, really stall his third Nexus. Hopefully he stops maybe after this round and goes for a Nexus if he gets in with the Observer and sees, hey, you don't have a starport, you just finished your second factory, not really worried about anything, I can feel comfortable to just take a third base. And Observer does move out. He only has one, just spots a few mines. Hasn't really gotten into the main just yet. And we've got a turret ring coming up from Rush, but it's not quick enough to push the Observer back. So he's still going to be able to get in. And unlike players like Flash, this is not going to be a turret ring around the edges. This is just on the outskirts here and then right by the factory. And you can see he leaves a slight gap here. Flash also is known to leave a gap somewhere in his defense. And the reason he does that is he builds Goliaths and just leaves them on hold position there instead. So it's kind of a way to optimize your minerals while still having detection in pretty good spaces. Now what I love about this starport placement is it is caught behind the turret ring. So the Observer, wow, he actually is able to get in. But does he see the starport being built? Because if you see the starport being built already at 7 minutes, that's a dead giveaway of how fast that armory timing was. And you can know that this guy is going for 3-2 or just a 2-1, not going to factory flood on you. So it's a bit unfortunate Rain not able to get in there. But Rain, on the other side of the map, did build his third Nexus off of what looks like probably about maybe 8 goons or so. You can see he is slowly building up that goon count. He's sitting at around 12, and we've got a delayed Reaver. And Reaver on Fighting Spirit, quite annoying to say the least. Even if it's late, even if it doesn't get into your main and wreak havoc on your mineral line, you can just position it over here and deny this third base forever. Super, super difficult for Terran to ever get a third base on Fighting Spirit. And he has split up his armories. So if a Reaver comes in, he's not going to lose both at the same time. But you can see that +1 weapon already done. That's really quick. An 8:30 +1 timing. Third factory, about finished. It's not really that fast or that slow. It's pretty much just an average timing. And now the Observer comes in and actually sees the starport and sees that the science facility is already done. I wouldn't be surprised if Rain, now seeing that, takes a fourth base at bottom left. But for now, we don't see any probe move out. We've seen a couple of vultures trying to do something. It's got 4 vultures with speed, but oh, it's going to be for a drop, and the Observer spots it. But does he really see it? Because if you look from Rain's point of view, I don't see any movement to the top side of the map. Okay, there are 2 goons in position, so that's great. Okay, he does see it because he's moving into position. He's got a Sim City here with the Citadel and Forge. Would really like to see a cannon get up. But this is pretty tight also. Now with 4 goons coming in, this should get shut down really easily. I love how he waits till the last second, and then he just knocks these vultures down so quick. Also, a round of goons popping out at the same time. So these vultures, what looked like was not going to get a lot of damage done, he ends up getting about 4 probes. That's not bad. Not bad at all. But really, you're looking for a little bit more. But it would have been really crazy if he could have used this vulture timing to buy him time to float a command center over here, but of course, you gotta actually have a command center for that. So he is not going for a third base, in fact. He is just gonna flood factories. He's going into the 7 fact timing with 2-1, so now all of a sudden this 2-1 starts making sense. you know, when you go for a third base, that's a lot of money to be spending before it really kicks in. So you can't really have as much units as you really want when you go for a 2-1 timing with an armory as fast as that. So I like this follow-up. You can see supplies are pretty decent, 125 to 104. So that's pretty even. The vultures moving to the left side. And they are going to intercept these goons. Now remember, he already kind of failed a drop. And he lost the dropship. He really can't afford to lose these 6 vultures also. If he loses that while going for a timing, all of a sudden your build order is just down the drain, or your entire strategy is down the drain. That's 20 supply in fighting units that you're just flat out missing. So if you have, let's say, like a 170 supply, it could have been 190. And even though vultures, you know, aren't tanks, they still do a lot of damage to zealots. And meanwhile, Rain, seeing all those factories, he's starting to flood out the gateways himself. But the Citadel timing was not as fast as you would have seen in years past, where players were going for more arbiter play. This is just going to be speed and storm. 10 gates. I actually think that Rush is going to run this over. 10 gates is not the scariest amount of gateways to be facing when you're going for a 7-fact. He's also got double add-on, and he's had double add-on for a long time. So if we get a count on the tanks, damn, this is a lot. This is something like 13 tanks right now. And you know he's waiting for maybe one more cycle, so that's going to put him around 17 tanks maybe? That's a ton of firepower. Also a single vessel, maybe it doesn't have EMP, but may have D-Matrix as the push continues. But here we go, a 160 move out versus 173. Not big eco for Protoss because he saw it coming, he didn't want to overspin. But actually, as I say that, I just now realized there's a Nexus going up at top middle. That could get instantly denied by Rush. So we do have him slowly creeping out, slowly putting down turrets. Remember, the whole game plan here is shuttle bombings with Storm, and Rain is moving into position. There's not a lot of mines set up. I think this is the time to go. Turret's not set up. There's not that many Goliaths. Shuttle bomb on top of the tanks. He is able to unload a decent amount of the Zealots, but not all of them get unloaded. You can see tanks splashed a few of their own units, and they do get picked off, but supplies plummet for Rain from 180 down to 130, even with a cycle of gateways. He's still only at 140. Meanwhile, Rush sitting pretty at 150, and +2 had just kicked in. So that's a huge power spike that for him. He also picks off one of the Templars and baits the Storm, so that's great. But remember, Protoss still is on 3 bases, so he does have a lot better econ from Rush. Rush, no command center just yet, and when you do a 7-fact, you actually overbuild SCVs. So these patches are going to mine out really quickly. He really needs to do magic with this push. He is starting to lay a few mines. Not the greatest Storm, and remember, that's all the AoE that Rain has. Okay, maybe not. I see he's got 3 more Templars in this shuttle, but this army is just ferocious from Rush. His units are really clumped though, but because there's not a lot of Zealots, he's hesitant to go for it. Relentless reinforcements from Rush. He's almost at the bridges now. Does have his 3rd command center coming up. Picks off another Templar. This is fantastic for him. Let's get a zoom out. Look at this army. Here comes the shuttle. Nope. Just unloads. Templars get a good Storm off. You can see Rain has a pretty sizable army up there. That's not the greatest Storm. Only hits 1 tank. And he loses the Templar. Loses another Templar. Really good kiting of the Storms from Rush. I think Rain's got to go, and this is that he is going to come in here, barreling in. Nothing in the shuttle really to unload. So it's just Zealot and Goons versus Tank Vulture with heavy upgrades. Protoss only has +1 weapons, so not hitting that hard, but supplies still very, very close. But again, the Zealots are fizzling out. Meanwhile, just non-stop Vultures from Rush. He also is continuing to pump out tanks, even though he has a decent tank count remaining. Not willing to risk losing, critical mass on his tanks in favor of, rallying just non-stop Vultures even out of the add-ons. But here we come. Rain again trying to get through this tank line, and this time around he finds success. Not a lot to buffer for those tanks, so he takes down the majority. And now all we've got left is what, 3-4 tanks, 5 Vultures, but not a lot of Goons left over. But remember, this is 10 gate production. So he'll be able to resupply this quite quickly. Meanwhile, Vulture does find the 4th base, but I think this is panic mode for Rush. He sees the 4th base is running. He knows mid-left has been running for a long time. And remember, he just now got his 3rd base, but that doesn't really put him on 3 bases because his main's mined out, and his natural is basically mined out too. So unless he's getting a 4th base soon, he's going to be heavily behind in resources. The natural is fine for Rain. The saturation, the amount of patches and how much they have left is fine. The main is kind of mined out, but he's sitting pretty on three bases. He's fine with that. Zealot clearing out some mines. That is a lot of zealots. Look how many zealots this is. You know what I would actually like? I would like Rain to just kind of leave the goons here and send the zealots around the bottom, but it doesn't have any vision there, so it could be dangerous to run into mines. So for now, this is fine. Another pick off of the Templars. So brutal to lose non-stop Templars to just a handful of Vultures. Doesn't get that one, but he at least baits out a Storm. But now Protoss has nearly a 30 supply lead. Critical mass for Terran really isn't there anymore. He's got to be careful to be out this far because a counterattack could be devastating. If he loses his base, all of a sudden, he's not mining. Of course, he would instantly counter, but Protoss would be still mining this base and this base for quite a while. Rush really needs to make a decision. Is he pushing to victory, or is he just kind of sitting here and going to try and knock down top middle? He's decided he needs to knock down top middle, so that's great for him. I think he should be able to knock this down pretty easily. He has a lot of mines set up all over the map. It's going to be really hard for Protoss to just bust through here. But this is high ground, and even though you have tanks, cannons can buy a lot of time, especially with Zealot and Templar support. We've got a tank taking a D matrix here, but Rain moving in with his army. Almost max supply for both. We got a Reaver drop at mid-right, and that is going to do what I thought was a lot of damage, but of course the Reaver bugs out. An instant transfer of the SCVs saves them. Oh, and the Reaver didn't fire at all! Didn't kill any SCVs! Supplies at 170 still, and this base at top middle. It's gonna fall eventually, I think. That was not a huge commitment from Rain, but it's his army split. Like half the army's down here. Again, there's no mines, so this is probably gonna be a lot of Zealots taking heavy damage. If they don't trigger these mines, these 2 Templars might die. It also gives vision to Rush that movement is happening on this side of the map, and he does not need to move any more units to continue his siege at top middle. So Rain, all of a sudden, what looked like a great hold outside of his natural is kind of falling apart. Where does he actually attack? He's gonna go through the center. I don't know about this though. Again, there's no observer, there's no vision. Big hit onto the Dragoons and the Zealots. May have found an opening here, but this army isn't that big. Now he's kind of intercepting the top side of the army, and he's just getting slammed from all sides. Supplies plummet, 110. Wow, how did that trade happen? And there it is. GG. Nicely done from Rush. I can't believe that he ended up taking that victory so easily. It looked like a good position with 4 bases from Rain, but not the engagement that Rain really wanted. Lack of observers really hurt him. I'm not sure if it was because Goliath picked it off or what happened with that, but well done from Rush, and his 2-1 timing seals the victory. So that's going to be it today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for the continued support of StarCastTV. We've got ASL coming up next week, so hope to see you there. We're going to have some fantastic games, I'm sure.